Om Shanti, everyone. Welcome to your next normal and America Meditating Radio. We are so happy to be partnering and collaborating together, because we're two peas in a pod, supporting the meditation museums here in the nation's capital and our global America Meditating podcast. Little did we know that 7.5 years later, America Meditating Radio would be a hobby that has really gone great. This was a hobby and it has transcended into something that has made such an impact and has invited some of the most beautiful and prolific voices of all time. And of course, we all know the Meditation Museums is our sister company and our wonderful space in the Washington, D.C. area for folks to come in and find their respite. Even though the centers are closed as a result of the pandemic, we're looking forward to reopening and being a part of the vibrant community that we've always been. But thanks to the inventor of Wi-Fi, internet, camera, this, light, action, we're still able to meet with each other and stay connected. To be socially linked is so important. Many of us believe in our dreams, and some of us kind of wonder what dreams are all about, and some of us walk around daydreaming. Right now, I daydream of us being in a retreat place. And as I'm thinking about it, I know that no thought goes to waste. And so if I can raise my vibrations high enough to fulfill some of the things that I've often envisioned, then of course it will happen. Sometimes it doesn't happen at that exact moment that I want it to happen, but it does happen. Today, I'm really privileged to welcome a very, very special guest to the Next Normal. As the CEO of Dream University, Marcia Wieder spent over 30 years teaching people worldwide how to achieve their personal and professional dreams. She has written 15 books on this particular topic. And Marcia created the Meaning Institute to help people live meaningful lives. She has collaborated with 3 United States presidents, was a regular on Oprah. She was featured in her PBS-TV special, was a columnist for the San Francisco Chronicle, and taught at Stanford's business school. So you have an idea of what you're preparing for. Marcia is also a member of the Transformational Leadership Council and as a board member of the Unstoppable Foundation, financed and helped build 14 schools in Kenya. Let's put it together to welcome Marcia Wieder to the Next Normal and America Meditating Radio. Marcia, you're amazing. You're incredible.
Thank you for having me on. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
Where are you getting all this energy from?
From God. Where else? I've always said that's my greatest gift. That's what I've been given.
That's the perfect answer. I love that. Exactly. From the divine. Exactly.
Absolutely. It's also interesting, Sister Jenna, because for decades I taught people how to create, how to manifest their dreams. And the guidance that I'm getting lately is about empowering and inspiring us to know ourselves as creators. So it's just a whole nother level. It's like my ceiling became my floor. Everything that I did makes more sense now. But it's a whole different frequency to really know that we are creating this creation. And I just feel privileged to be able to speak about that.
For many women in the corporate sector, it's quite an interesting experience. Sometimes as a woman, and this being Women's International Month, women have had to work 100 times harder. Why is that? We are just as intelligent, we're more prettier, we are definitely more energetic. Why is it that when it comes to the corporate sector, women find themselves working 10 times harder or 100 times harder just to almost get close to where men are?
I don't even know if it's just in the corporate sector, because I do meet many women who consider dreaming, focusing on what they want, what's in their heart. They still talk about it as being selfish. And of course, it's an act of generosity, because when we give ourselves what we need, we have extra for others. And you and I were just lamenting about Washington, D.C. When I lived in D.C., I was president of the National Association of Women Business Owners. This was in the 90s. And many of my women friends had men's names, Tommy, Bobby, Larry. These were like my mentors and my guides. So it's still a fairly new conversation, even though it's shocking. And I'm really hoping that women, that all of man and womankind will know that our dreams are precious. We are precious and priceless children of God. We have the birthright to live a life of joy, love, and abundance. And we have to break some old habits and some bad patterns. And I think that's what a lot of that is about.
What do you think are those old habits or bad patterns that we have to start breaking?
I think there's three big ones that I call the human being biggies. Scarcity, there's not enough time, money, or me to go around. Inadequacy, I'm not blank enough, smart enough, rich enough, pretty enough, whatever, enough. And the big one that I think underlies all of it is trust. I don't trust myself. So how could I possibly trust you? I don't trust life. I don't trust the weather. So I can't plan an outdoor activity, much less growing a big company or organization. And I think the way to develop greater self-trust is through integrity. Our making and keeping our agreements with ourselves and others so that we can deepen our self-trust can help us strengthen the muscle that will allow us to dream bigger dreams, maybe take greater risks, and live with integrity at a soul level, to know who we really are and what is ours to do. And the other thing I would add in is discernment. The ability to say no more and no thank you. I meet so many women who are just afraid to say no. And I think when we try to be all things to all people, we wind up being nothing to nobody. So I think the ability to, as we say no more and clear away the clutter, I mean, we don't always have a choice. Your kids need you, or you're under deadline at work, you may not have a choice. But when someone asks you to do something, if you don't have to and you don't want to, I hope you can consider saying no thank you, because as we say no more, we clear away some of the clutter and we can say now what to what's really important and meaningful to us.
I'm wondering if the pandemic has actually helped all of us to start to be a little bit more introspective and sensitive to the nature of our thinking. You talked about integrity being one of the key components in building trust. But sometimes we don't check in with ourselves at a deep soul level as we're accustomed to. Let's just say, for example, I have a dream to open up a retreat place. It's not a dream, but let's say I know that it's destined. It's going to happen. I might be having a self-sabotaging thought without me even knowing, going, oh, well, this might happen. I don't even know it, but I'm still kind of thinking I'm supposed to go in this direction. The point that I'm making is sometimes we miss that real important signal, which is coming in the form of a thought that doesn't help us to build self-trust. But we might have trust in something very external. Like, I trust money will come in. I trust the lights will go on. I trust these things. But how many of us trust ourselves, in which those thoughts are in alignment with the higher energy of God's vision on us? Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yes, first I apologize for interrupting you. I'm coming to you. I'm in Lisbon, Portugal, and there was a slight lag, and I thought you were done, and I stepped on you, so forgive me. I'll try to give it a little more space. I feel that most of us are aware that our attitudes and beliefs are never neutral, and most of us understand that they either move us forward or hold us back. But I think often, and I was guilty of this as well, we forget that we can choose what we believe. And the question, I think, is, can you believe in yourself and your dreams, not because there are guarantees, promises, or assurances, but because something matters to you enough that you'll put a stake in the ground, set an intention, put yourself in right relationship with that intention through your integrity, and act on the dream to demonstrate you're more committed to the dream than to any doubt, fear, or reality. And I think the hardest step in the dreaming process is the pivotal step when we act on what's unknown and unseen. But we take that proverbial leap of faith because something matters enough to us. And from there, we have a new perspective. We have new resources. People relate to us differently because we're no longer just thinking about or talking about our dreams. We're demonstrating that we're serious by taking action. And I define a dream as simply something that you want. But there's a slight paradox because the difference between a dream and a fantasy, like winning the lottery, is that in a dream, you can design a strategy for getting there. However, if we go to strategy too quickly, we often compromise the dream down to what we realistically think is possible. And so if we never do anything about it, the dream remains a fantasy. But if we go to strategy too quickly, that can compromise on our passion and our vision. So I think there's skill to be developed in manifesting our dreams. And the other thing is many people have lingering dreams, maybe someday. And I think that activates the doubter inside of us. When we say we're going to do something, we don't do it, that erodes a little bit of our self-trust. So I think trusting ourselves at one level are the keys to the kingdom. And I think it's something that can absolutely be developed. So if the biggest obstacle is not trusting ourselves and we can develop it like a muscle, then our ability to not just get the ideas, but to manifest our dreams becomes much more accessible and available.
Beautiful, and it's so interesting because all of us have an innate feeling of self-trust recorded inside of us. It's just that maybe we've gone through an experience or a situation that we just can't let go of. It just keeps taking over our thinking and we're like, So one of the things that you have been really passionate about is your dream movement and moving things forward for you. And sometimes, I don't know, we find ourselves kind of trapped in something of the old, something of the past. And for me, I think about, is this preordained for me to be walking into? Because I'm so, maybe I put too much attention, Marcia, on living from a place of desires. I feel like desires are coming within me from a place that I'm lacking, that I don't think I'm enough. I don't think I've achieved enough. So I'm going to desire to be this. But for me, like the dream is connected to a vision. It's the inevitable. It's just that I don't know what time it's going to manifest. And that's how I feel about, dreaming and moving forward in life. Well, and I'm curious to just find out, what were you going through? What was it that stimulated you to move into this dream movement idea and move away completely from the corporate world? Because in a sense, we carry our dreams in the corporate world. I want to become the next CEO. I want to become this and, those little goals that we shoot for. But what was happening with you that you were like, there's something else calling me?
Well, it's happened more than once, right? I mean, there's different phases of life because I started this work 30 years ago. I've been teaching how to make dreams come true for a very, very long time. And initially, it did come from a wound. Growing up with a handicapped sister, growing up with a family that was filled with doubt and fear and worry. And I made different choices, even though they judged me and thought I was crazy. I was fairly optimistic and hopeful. I, would joke and say, I'm Susie Hope in a house full of hopelessness. So I think initially it was probably formed out of my own wound and my own need. But it's an interesting thing because asking good questions throughout the process helped me make very different choices and decisions. And 4 years ago, at the top of my business success, I pulled the plug and I moved to Rome, Italy. My colleagues thought I had lost my mind, and I could just feel inside my heart that there was something new trying to emerge. And I realized that just because, I'll speak for myself, just because I was good at something didn't mean it was the only thing I was here to do. And the idea of being a creator started to awaken inside of me. And I had always dreamed of living in Rome. It was a maybe someday. And suddenly I found myself saying, it feels like this is the day. It was kind of a shock. It wasn't like, oh, when I get to a certain age, I'm going to leave or retire. And I didn't even know how to speak about it. I talked about it as a sabbatical. And when people would say, how long are you going to be away? And I'd say, well, I guess until I come back. And people would say, well, what if you don't like Rome? I thought, well, I'll move someplace else. But what I learned in Rome was I learned how to meditate with my eyes open. After 30 years as a TMer who knew how to sit and to drop in, Italy was incredibly beautiful. There's actually a name for a disease where people get overloaded by beauty. It's called the Stendhal syndrome. And it was this man years ago. It's so fascinating, right? Stendhal, I think it's Stendahl, I believe. And he got drunk on beauty in Venice and Florence. And I loved that idea. I just loved that idea. So I would go into the Pantheon, which was near my house in Rome, a 2,000-year-old, totally intact temple. And there I would bring my hands to my heart and I would close my eyes and I would connect in to Mother Earth and to the heaven. And with the big hole in the ceiling, I would imagine that God was pouring wisdom and insight down into me. People would run in with their cameras. They would take a pan and scan or a selfie, and I would just meditate and meditate. And then one day I heard in my ear and in my heart, try it with your eyes open. So I opened and I just sat and I breathed, and it was sweet. And then learning how to walk around in a meditative state, still being available. I learned a technique that I made up called turn on your love light. And what I noticed is that if I turned on my love light before I left the house, I was magnetic. People were making eye contact with me. We were smiling at each other. And if I didn't turn on my love light, I was often invisible in a city that had, just thousands and thousands of tourists. So I made that my conscious practice to turn on my love light, to open my eyes, to walk through life and to listen. So by asking different questions and paying attention to what life was bringing to me moment by moment, and then tuning into my deeper knowing and understanding, it made it much easier for me to make choices and decisions, including a year and a half ago, I was guided to move to Lisbon. I still don't know fully why I'm here, except it's a city where more people speak English, which helps. It's less touristy. And I'm here to be a bright light and to contribute. And as long as I keep using my inner guidance and keep listening, I can trust that I'm living on purpose, even though I may not know what tomorrow brings.
I feel like sitting on a couch and talking to you all night. The whole notion about you just getting this guidance of meditating with eyes open, that's what we do in the Brahma Kumaris. And a lot of people will always say, oh, why would you meditate with eyes open? That's almost impossible. No, that's what brings the best of you in action. That's what makes you aware of everything around you so that you show up in the way that, is the highest expression of yourself. And I really am touched by you sharing that, and just the download of feeling God's light and God's vibrations flowing through you. I have to say, there are a lot of people out there, Marcia, who would like to fulfill their dreams. They have goals, they have desires, they have a vision, but they're scared. And they are buying into the fear of, well, what if I take the plunge? What if I go to Italy just like that? Okay, I feel a guidance. And let me tell you, I've been having a guidance to retire in a beautiful penthouse overlooking the Atlantic, but I just don't have the courage to do it. And there's some of us who just like, no, I can't. I have to take care of this, I have to take care of these people, I have to do that. But for me, just get me that 5,000 square feet penthouse overlooking the Atlantic. I'm good. I'll do spiritual work from there too. Now, there's some of us who just don't answer that guidance. How would you talk to us?
Well, I would say we have lots of different parts, obviously, including we have a dreamer and we have a doubter. If we turn the voice of the doubter down, it becomes the realist. The realist typically wants to know what's the plan. Where are you going to get the time and where are you going to get the money? Those are its big needs. But before we turn the voice of the doubter down, I would encourage people to turn toward it and to hear what it has to say. Because if it's part of us, clearly it has a sacred function and a sacred role. And what I've discovered over a lifetime of this work and growing up with a family and a mom that was a big worrier and a lot of doubt and a lot of fear is that, well, let's see, a couple of things. First, the number one way that we sabotage our dreams is we project our fear and doubt into the dream. We do it with three little words. You just demonstrated it. But what if? But what if I, move from DC to the beach and into the pen? But what if? Will I lose my spiritual connection? And that doubter can really run amok. And I think it's like a child. So if we ignore it, it can get so loud that it's all that we hear. Or it can get so soft that it can unconsciously sabotage our dreams. So I would say, and it's counterintuitive, turn toward the doubter, ritualize the conversation, light a beautiful candle, pull out a journal and say, okay, doubter, I'm going to give you 10 minutes. Let me hear your doubts and fears. And by the way, the bigger the dream, often the bigger the doubts. And some people might say, well, I don't have any doubts. Well, some people would say you're not dreaming big enough. Some people might say, well, you've dealt with your doubter enough. And I certainly am very aware of it. But when I start to hear its cousins, confusion, procrastination, these are all close relatives of the doubter. I've learned to say, okay, let me hear what you have to say, because the doubter will give you your list of obstacles. And every obstacle is either an internal job, something I believe about myself, about my dream, about life, about the world, a belief, or something that requires a strategy or a practice or a plan, an external obstacle. And once you have your list of obstacles, well, we can do belief work to shift our belief system. We can design projects and strategies and practices to strengthen our capacity. Like I said earlier, we can deepen our self-trust by making and keeping our agreements with ourselves and others. And it's a life-changing moment when people realize that sometimes what's stopping you from pursuing your most heartfelt dream is some belief that you don't even necessarily actually believe. It could be, as you said earlier, left over from something that was incomplete or something that went awry. And we have an opportunity moment by moment to create our life, to discern as we're clearing away, to focus and be more intentional on what we truly want and what matters to us. But there's no question, the doubter can derail us, and everything gets thrown together in a big soup pot. So I have my dream, I have my doubts, I have my limiting beliefs, I have my mother's limiting beliefs, I have generations of limiting beliefs. So I think slowing the process down, separating out what's the dream, what's the doubt, and part of the doubt includes the limiting beliefs.
Right, about sitting with the doubter and really having a conversation, because I think a lot of us allow the resistance to take over, and it really sabotages the dream that's trying to manifest itself for us. Why do you think that this might be a really critical time for many of us to really start to fulfill our dreams?
Thank you for asking such an important question. Many people would say this is not a time to dream. And they would say it's a time to be realistic. And I would say it's never been a better or more important time. People talk about the COVID crisis. I talk about the COVID opportunity. There's the opportunity, if you can get your feet on the ground, open your heart, ask good questions, clear away what's no longer true. It's a great time to take a little personal inventory, see what dreams have died, which dreams are you still saying, gee, maybe someday? Because nothing activates the doubter more than saying you're going to do something and not doing it. So we can develop greater muscle during this time when we are home a little bit more and we have quieter time and a little more space. We can ask ourselves different questions. How do I want my life to be? And what am I willing to do about it? Questions that can be challenging and confronting, but I think we have an incredible opportunity right now to create and to manifest. So I would want people to know I'm not talking about dreams like fantasies. I'm talking about what is it that matters to you and what are you willing to do about it to prove that it matters. And I will add that big dreams or long-term dreams, where they often die, is when we just plop them on a to-do list. Even writing a book, putting it on your to-do list, do we ever get to it? No. So we want to take the big dream or the long-term dreams like retirement or down the line dreams and create short-term projects, a project that's 30 days or less. And the purpose of the project is to move you forward on the dream, something that you can easily accomplish in 1 month or less, because a month is a short enough period of time where you can stay passionate and excited, but a long enough period of time where you can see a result. And I think that's one of the tools and one of the skills that can change our mindset about what we're capable of.
A lot. I mean, the whole thing of changing our mindsets, I mean, everything is just a thought away, Marcia. And this morning I woke up and I kept saying, it's all just a thought, Jen. You know that, right? It's just a thought. And then there's like all of these old, old baggage of thoughts. It's just sitting there. Remember back in the days when we used to fly and especially international flights, and I'm talking about like maybe 10 years ago when they didn't have all that weight restriction. When I would be going to India, we would pack everything in there, including your grandmother. There was just so much in that luggage. And half of the things you really didn't need when you got to the country, And I think that a lot of us are carrying a lot of useless memories, useless material. In a lot of your discussions, you talk about this ancient idea of a dream time and its connection to us understanding a soul level, our soul level. Could you elaborate a little bit more on that to help us to see in what way we can, bring something more to our lives to make it more fulfilling?
It's a question I rarely get asked, so I love that you've opened the door. Thank you. I had the privilege in maybe my late 20s, early 30s, of meeting an Aboriginal elder in Australia. And I had started thinking about making dreams come true back then. So I said, what is this dream time that you talk about? And he said, we believe that if you can dream it, it can exist. If you dream it at night, it exists in reality. And luckily, I was curious enough to ask more questions. I said, well, how does that work? And he said, it's very simple. We don't lie. He said, we tell the truth. We strive to do our best to tell the truth. He was talking about integrity. And he planted the seed inside of my heart to really, truly understand the power and the magic of manifestation. In the beginning, there was the word, and I had a very funny, I try to tell this very succinctly, a very funny thing happened Christmas Eve. I was going out of my home to meet some friends, and my iPhone completely died. It was like a dead brick. And I thought, I'm not going to be able to call the Uber. I'm not going to be able to call my friends to tell them that I'm coming. And I had a moment of kind of nervousness. And I thought, I still have my iPad. And I reached out to a dear friend, and it was Christmas Eve. I was very blessed that he answered. And he said, do this and do that, like press this button and press this button, and the apple will appear in your hand. And I realized that I had often said, my dream before I die is to reach enlightenment. And I will know that I have reached enlightenment when I can say apple and an apple will appear in my hand. So I'm on the phone with this guy Christmas Eve, and he said, press these buttons and an apple will appear in your hand. And I had a moment of, That's ridiculous. And I caught myself so quickly. I'm like, yes, I'm ready for the apple to appear in my hand. And sure enough, the apple appeared in my hand. And I laughed so hard. But then I thought, symbol is the language of the soul. And I asked for the apple to appear, and the apple appeared. My work is to trust it, to not doubt it. And this is what I was being shown with Dreamtime, that if you can think it, that if you can dream it while you're sleeping, it can manifest in our reality. Now, the work we have to do is we have to be discerning and not let our doubter hijack us and not let our old stories overshadow the dream. And I think that's a practice. I will say in my life, discernment is one of the skills that has changed my life more than anything. And along with it, I'm learning a deeper level of integrity. Integrity, as you said, at a soul level, knowing who I am, why I am here, what is mine to do. And even though at one level I don't really know why I'm in Lisbon, I turn on my love light and I walk out, and a lot of people, although right now we're under extreme lockdown, so there's not a lot of people out, but when people are out, a lot of them are walking with their phones and of course enjoying the beauty of the sights. But I think there's something about feeling our feet and being conscious of the steps that we're taking and where we're being guided and led. Discernment.
Thank you for mentioning this particular important word of discernment, because America has been going through quite a lot in the last few years, and it's continuing. It hasn't stopped. However, for the last few years, there's been a challenge in individuals being able to use their discernment to try to sift what is an illusion and what is real. And still, they're not out of it. They're still almost as if there is the residue of just being in such a crux, in such a state of confusion, that even though things are coming back in the straight and narrow, I took my mother yesterday to get her vaccine. And can I tell you, I almost wanted to start to cry a tear. There was such a visual of humanity. The energy of compassion and service and love was overwhelming for me to actually look at it and go, wow, this is some of the things that we've often loved about this country, is that it runs on a system and it runs in a particular way that can make your life just be more of a humanity. And it's been going through a lot. So let's just say you're now in Lisbon and you're waiting for your love light to shine throughout the whole country, for everyone to recognize that you're the gift to the country. But
no, for them to recognize they are.
to recognize that they are the gift. That's true too. That's true. That's exactly true. If you were to set an intention for humanity, what would that intention be? And how clear and specific do we need to be to allow some intentions to emerge?
Two very big questions. My intention for humanity is for us to know ourselves as divine, so that all those stories, all of those beliefs just fall away, and that we see each other moment by moment the way that you saw and experienced and felt these beautiful souls yesterday. I guess this is the part of me that is eternally hopeful. I just believe that's who we really are. And when I turn on my love light, I'm seeing the light of God in other people. And sometimes when they see me seeing them that way, they too believe it. And it's a breath away. And I think the clarity, I own the URL. Never said this to anyone, certainly not in an interview. I own the URL, I speak for God. And I've never had the guts to use it. Years ago, I was giving a keynote speech in California somewhere, and I used the word Dharma. And I'm very thoughtful about contextualizing and defining my language. So I was thoughtful, and still, I was accused of being demonic. I was accused of being the Antichrist. And I got scared. It was early on in my career, and I pulled back me. And it took many, many years of soul searching and asking, am I willing to die for what I believe in? And then, of course, the question is, am I willing to live for what I believe in? And I believe that humanity is good. I believe that our hearts are pure. I believe people can lose their way and there is evil and darkness. I do see that that exists. But overall, at a very core, I believe in love and I believe in light. And I'm hopeful that we will remember the truth of who we are. Now, the more we speak about it, the more we embody it, the more we act it, the easier it is to manifest it, because I do think clarity is an essential step. And I know it's tricky when concepts like this have different meanings for different people, but I think the divine includes everything and has space for all different colors, shapes, sizes, beliefs, understanding. So I think that's it.
Yes, no, that's gorgeous, because the more I look at humanity, and especially particularly now, there's a lot going on in India with the farmers. Myanmar's military has taken over its country. What has taken place in America and what continues to take place in America, I don't know, I found myself sort of wondering, will evil ever not exist? Now, I believe a golden age is coming. Please don't get me wrong. I know that the age after this golden age is going to come. We'll walk around on the earth like we're walking living deities. We'll have mango juice to drink every day. Life is just going to be like heaven and it'll be perfect.
Heaven on earth, I love that. And
I know, and I just feel though that when I look at the narrative, I said it's been thousands of years. I continue to watch and listen that people in the mode of algae, it's an acronym that I use a lot. It represents anger, lust, greed, attachment, and ego. That energy has consistently stayed in the story. And I'm just thirsting for a time and the age when algae is just no longer recorded in the consciousness. Mm-hmm. And we live that dream. We live that dream. You have been leading the dream process, the dream coach process, and the Dream University Dream Coach certification program. I had to look at my paper to get that right. And I wanted to find out, because I'm sure some of our viewers and listeners would be very, very interested in what you're offering. Could you tell us a little bit about that? And how could somebody get involved with your program?
Thank you. So dream coaching is like life coaching, only we help people find their purpose, clarify their dreams, deal with their doubts, and then turn their dreams into projects and action steps. And most importantly, teach people how to ask for help. I think in order to master manifestation, we must master the ability to talk about our dreams or projects or businesses in a way that inspires other people to join us. It comes down to two skills. We have to inspire people and we have to invite them. And my experiences were not so great on the inviting side. So dreamuniversity.com is my main website, and there's many online courses there, including the Dream Coach certification. And I put together a little gift for your viewers. They go to dreamuniversity.com/gift. Easy enough. There's 3 tools there that will support people in clarifying what they want, overcoming their obstacles, and taking action. Because I have found that the entire process can be reduced down to CBA. Get clear about your dreams, believe in your dreams, and act on your dreams. And demonstrate that you're more committed to your dreams than to any doubt, fear, or reality by taking action. So if you want to take an action step right now, you can go to dreamuniversity.com/gift. There's 3 tools there that are very content rich, no cost at all. And then if you're interested in knowing more, you can click on the programs and courses. We used to do a lot of live events, but luckily we had recorded and put a methodology together so people can do things from the comfort of their own home. It's an interesting thing, though. I created the Dream Coach methodology more than 10 years ago. And a few months ago, I started getting requests from people, would I be willing to teach a virtual format with me leading people through the program? And I had to go through some soul searching around that, because my mind and my ego said, that's what I used to do. That's who I was. This will be like taking a step backwards. So I sat down over a period of a week and watched 40 videos of myself with very short hair and a long time ago. And the content was more relevant than ever. So I said, yes, I'll do that. But I still had to deal with myself. And I had to ask a very important question. And that was, what would make it a joyful experience for me to lead that again? Otherwise, the program's there and people can just purchase the program and do it at home. But what would make it joyful and purposeful for me? And I realized, it's where we started the interview and the conversation, that the course teaches them how to create. And the context that I wrapped around it was that I was going to teach them how to be creators. And it brought me so much joy. It raised the level. They still had the core content. They still became certified dream coaches, which meant that they could, for free or for a fee, charge to help other people go through this methodology. There's a workbook and a structure, which is very unusual in coaching. But the transformation that these people went through. For example, there's a session where they have to create a new empowering belief. My empowering belief is, I trust life. It wasn't always that, but I chose that and lived into it and became more and more that. In the course, I invited them to add the words, I'm a creator, to their beliefs. So my new belief is, I'm a creator who trusts life. That was a game changer. So on one hand, it's just language, it's just words. But if you're someone who practices living with integrity and dream time, you know the profound power of language and the specificity about how we use it and how we speak about it. So I feel incredible. 70 people went through the program with me and are now thinking of themselves as creators who also have this dream coach certification. So I think it was a lesson for me that time is an illusion anyway, and it's not about going back. And rather than just like, I don't want to, that's my, you know, that place, I don't want to. Let me ask a different question, which was, what would have this light me up? And I will tell you that I reconnected to my essence as a dreamer. I found a whole new level of energy. And I think that was a critical piece for me to help bridge me coming back into the world as a teacher and a guide in whatever way that wants to reveal itself. So dreamuniversity.com/gift.
It being International Women's Month, one of the things that I have encountered, because I have the privilege and the fortune of knowing so many beautiful women in the world, and they're also doing a lot of good things. But one of the things I've observed they struggle with is with the ask, because you mentioned earlier you have to kind of find a way to inspire, and then you have to know what your ask is. But I've found that sometimes we don't ask. Why is that? What is at the genesis of man or woman? You have a goal, you have a dream, you have an idea, you're a creative innovator for something that you believe is really amazing, but you're scared to ask for the funds, you're scared to ask for the opportunity, or you feel like you shouldn't ask, somebody should ask on your behalf. What is behind that stuckedness where we feel like, I can't ask, I don't know how to ask?
Yeah, I love stuckedness. I love that. This is a great word, stuckedness. We've been taught to do it ourselves. We've been taught, there's I think a litany of reasons. And one of the sabotaging patterns is believing that I have to do it myself. Because if you kill yourself in the process, you're not going to be around to enjoy to reap the rewards of manifesting your dreams. And especially on a big dream, we need help. And so I think we've been taught to be independent, not to impose, not to expect from others. There's a big, big list. And I've discovered a very simple 6-word phrase that people might find valuable. The phrase for before you're getting ready to ask for something, or right as, would you be willing to explore? dot, 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 dot. Would you be willing to explore investing in my retreat center? Would you be willing to explore hiring me as your dream coach, as I was teaching these people? Would you be willing to explore making a phone call to help me get the endorsement that I'm looking for? Or, would you be willing to explore? Is a polite, thoughtful way of inviting people to take their next step with you. And what I find is, another reason we don't like to ask is we don't like to feel rejected. So people often reject us when we ask for too much, or they're not clear about what we're asking for. And rather than say, well, I don't understand, could you tell me more information? They just don't return your phone call. So I think it's incumbent on us as the dreamer, as the asker, to inspire, to talk about what's so great and wonderful or special about what we're doing, but then to invite. And if you believe in your dream and what you're doing and what you're creating, to not share it with another is a missed opportunity. I think at one point I used to say it was a sin. To have something extraordinary and to keep it to yourself, that doesn't feel right to me. So I like asking for people. I like asking for money for other people. I
Call
like
later.
I really do like it, because if it's something that I believe in, which has a lot to do with believing in the person who's at the helm, that's how I was able to raise the money to help build all the schools in Kenya. I really believed in the woman who was at the helm. And, so at my events, I would create rituals for giving and receiving. And if you can give, fill in the pledge form. If you can't give money, put your love, pour your prayers into it, but give as a way to be generous, to open your heart to more receiving, even though that doesn't have to be the reason for doing it. It's certainly an added benefit. So I think a lot of what we've touched on that I really believe is true, Sister Jenna, is this, that we have to stop telling the old story and create a new one. And a new story that's filled with love and compassion and generosity, where we know that we are creators and that we're here to create, and that we see the beautiful, the beauty and the love light in each other, and then have it reflected back. So the moments that I forget, I can look in your eyes, and that can help me remember. So this is an act of giving and receiving. And for me, money, it's just more of the same. So would you be willing to explore is a really powerful phrase. I've used it highly. It's been highly, highly effective. And what's important to me is that people feel respected. And it's an invitation, not a demand. So they can say, no, it's not really my thing. And sometimes I encourage people to ask people why they're saying no. Gee, I value feedback and I'm new at this. Would you mind sharing with me why you're saying no? And usually it's you're asking for too much, or they don't understand, or it's just not a good fit. And then it's like, well, thank you for your feedback.
Well, you've come at the right time. Thank you so much. You have offered us so much richness of information that will be so useful for us now and down the road. And as we come to a close, I'd like you to engage you in a little bit of a spiritual rapid fire. Are you ready to go?
I love it. Yeah.
Tea or coffee?
Tea.
Book or a movie?
Movie.
Beach or the forest?
Day by day. Lately, forest. I'm surprised to say forest.
You're kidding me, really?
Well, it's always been beach, but right now in this moment, I'm longing for trees.
My beaches, no matter what. Oh, I get it. God or a religion?
Oh, totally God. I'm a God
Isn't
girl.
that something? That's such a big one. Being in home or globetrotting?
Right now, I have to say globetrotting. Been home a little too long, But for me, home is wherever I am. I feel blessed to be able to say that.
I know, it's interesting, right? And if I were to ask you about the energy of God, what's the first thought that would come to your mind?
They were mixed together, love and light. So I had this image of a heart with a flame pouring out of it.
I love it. Soul?
My response to soul is truth.
America?
Hopeful.
The future?
Hopeful.
Marcia Wieder?
Sweet.
You're spot on.
I love that. That was a surprise.
Absolutely spot on. Thanks so much for joining us here on The Next Normal and America Meditating Radio. For sure, you and I will have some to be continue moments, and I'm looking forward to that. I
would really love that. I welcome it anytime. Thank you so much. I've thoroughly enjoyed our time together.
Me too. Me too. Well, everyone, I hope you've enjoyed Marcia's wisdom, love, naturalness, beauty, authenticity, and the work that she's been offering. Please do contact her, and she's also given us some freebies, so take advantage of that now. There's so much about you. There's so much in you. There's so much in us. There is so much there. And if we can only tap more into it and use it, I don't know what it is, but I have found that something in me gets stirred up in a negative way when I encounter anyone, or if I'm with anyone who's living so less than. I don't know if it's a memory of a past life, or if it's just my angst that I want energies around me that keeps flying and keeps soaring, but it's almost as if it's a suffering for me when I actually see the potential in someone and they're not seeing it in themselves. Maybe it's my own story. Who knows? But let it be known to you, don't ever stop dreaming. One of the greatest gifts we have is to dream. And nobody, absolutely nobody, can take away our dreams. Only you can. So thank you for joining us on The Next Normal. And remember, no one can take away your happiness unless you give them permission. And we really are here to love each other the same. Please be well, stay happy, and keep dreaming. Take care, everyone.